Good evening, and welcome back to Deep Sleep History. Tonight, we are not visiting the grand palaces of mighty sultans or standing beneath glittering golden domes. We are leaving behind the stories of famous rulers and victorious armies. Instead, we will quietly step into the worn leather shoes of an ordinary person, someone history almost forgot. Imagine waking before the first light of dawn in the vast Ottoman Empire. Your back already aches from yesterday's work. The taxes are due. Bread has become more expensive again. A government official might arrive without warning, and somewhere far away another war is beginning that could soon reach your village. Life here is not one endless tragedy. There are moments of laughter, warm family meals, and peaceful evenings. But every sunrise brings new worries, and every season carries another burden to bear. So settle into your favorite chair, dim the lights, and let the noise of today slowly drift away. As always, if you enjoy peaceful journeys through history, you might like to subscribe, but only if you truly want to. Now, take a slow, comfortable breath. And together, let's gently travel back centuries into one of the largest and most powerful empires the world has ever known. The morning begins long before the sun appears over the hills. The village is almost silent. A few dogs bark somewhere in the distance. Chickens begin to stir inside their wooden pens. The cool night air still lingers over the fields, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and fresh grass. You slowly open your eyes. Your bed is simple. A thin mattress stuffed with wool or straw spread across a wooden platform. There are no soft pillows like those many people enjoy today. A folded blanket serves as both cushion and cover. The room around you is small. Thick stone or mud brick walls help keep the summer heat outside, while tiny windows allow only narrow beams of light to enter. Smoke from last night's fire still hangs faintly in the air. Before breakfast, before conversation, before work, there is already something waiting for you. Responsibility. Every member of the household has duties. Children gather water from the nearby well. Older sons prepare the animals. Daughters help knead bread or sweep the floor. Parents silently plan another long day of labor. No one expects life to be easy. In the Ottoman Empire, survival depends on everyone doing their part. Outside, the village slowly comes alive. A donkey pulls a small wooden cart towards the fields. A shepherd whistles softly as sheep begin leaving their enclosure. Somewhere nearby, a blacksmith's hammer strikes glowing iron for the very first time today. Its rhythmic sound echoes through the quiet morning. The empire itself stretches across 3 continents, from busy cities filled with merchants to tiny farming villages hidden among distant mountains. Millions of people begin mornings much like this one. Most of them will never meet the Sultan. Most will never visit the magnificent capital of Constantinople. Their entire world may extend no farther than the next village, the local market, and the surrounding farmland. The morning begins long before the sun appears over the hills. The village is almost silent. A few dogs bark somewhere in the distance. Chickens begin to stir inside their wooden pens. The cool night air still lingers over the fields, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and fresh grass. You slowly open your eyes. Your bed is simple, a thin mattress stuffed with wool or straw, spread across a wooden platform. There are no soft pillows like those many people enjoy today. A folded blanket serves as both cushion and cover. The room around you is small. Thick stone or mud brick walls help keep the summer heat outside, while tiny windows allow only narrow beams of light to enter. Smoke from last night's fire still hangs faintly in the air. Before breakfast, before conversation, before work, there is already something waiting for you. Responsibility. Every member of the household has duties. Children gather water from the nearby well. Older sons prepare the animals. Daughters help knead bread or sweep the floor. Parents silently plan another long day of labor. No one expects life to be easy. In the Ottoman Empire, survival depends on everyone doing their part. Outside, the village slowly comes alive. A donkey pulls a small wooden cart toward the fields. A shepherd whistles softly as sheep begin leaving their enclosure. Somewhere nearby, a blacksmith's hammer strikes glowing iron for the very first time today. Its rhythmic sound echoes through the quiet morning. The empire itself stretches across 3 continents. From busy cities filled with merchants to tiny farming villages hidden among distant mountains, millions of people begin mornings much like this one. Most of them will never meet the Sultan. Most will never visit the magnificent capital of Constantinople. Their entire world may extend no farther than the next village, the local market, and the surrounding farmland. The morning begins long before the sun appears over the hills. The village is almost silent. A few dogs bark somewhere in the distance. Chickens begin to stir inside their wooden pens. The cool night air still lingers over the fields, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and fresh grass. You slowly open your eyes. Your bed is simple, a thin mattress stuffed with wool or straw, spread across a wooden platform. There are no soft pillows like those many people enjoy today. A folded blanket serves as both cushion and cover. The room around you is small. Thick stone or mud brick walls help keep the summer heat outside, while tiny windows allow only narrow beams of light to enter. Smoke from last night's fire still hangs faintly in the air. Before breakfast, before conversation, before work, there is already something waiting for you. Responsibility. Every member of the household has duties. Children gather water from the nearby well. Older sons prepare the animals. Daughters help knead bread or sweep the floor. Parents silently plan another long day of labor. No one expects life to be easy. In the Ottoman Empire, survival depends on everyone doing their part. Outside, the village slowly comes alive. A donkey pulls a small wooden cart towards the fields. A shepherd whistles softly as sheep begin leaving their enclosure. Somewhere nearby, a blacksmith's hammer strikes glowing iron for the very first time today. Its rhythmic sound echoes through the quiet morning.
Others may leave forever, drawn into trade, military service, or opportunities in distant cities. But this morning, none of that matters. The fields are waiting. The animals must be fed. The taxes will eventually come due. And another ordinary day inside the Ottoman Empire has only just begun. As the cool morning breeze moves gently across the wheat, it almost feels peaceful. Yet hidden beneath that peaceful silence is a simple truth. Life here demands constant work, and tomorrow will ask for exactly the same.
As the seasons pass, you begin to understand that growing food is only part of your responsibility.
Keeping it is another matter entirely. The wheat swaying gently in your fields may look like it belongs to you. You planted it, you watered it, you prayed through storms and dry weeks alike. But when harvest time finally arrives, not every sack of grain will stay in your barn. A portion belongs to the state. For many villages across the Ottoman Empire, taxes are simply another season of the year, just as certain as spring planting or autumn harvesting. The tax collector does not care whether your children are hungry. He does not ask if heavy rain destroyed your crops. He records what is owed, and sooner or later, payment must be made. Many farming families pay taxes with part of their harvest rather than with coins. Bundles of wheat, barrels of olives, baskets of grapes, even honey, wool, or livestock may be accepted, depending on the region. Watching months of hard work disappear onto another man's cart is never easy. You know exactly how many long days stand behind every sack of grain, every aching muscle, every blistered hand, every sunrise spent beneath the hot summer sky. Sometimes the harvest is good. Those years bring relief. But nature is unpredictable. A late frost, a swarm of locusts, too little rain, too much rain. Any one of these can reduce a family's harvest by half. Yet taxes often remain. When grain is scarce, people face impossible choices. Do they feed their children?
Or save enough to satisfy the collector? Some borrow from wealthier neighbors. Others sell a goat. Some even sell family heirlooms that have been passed down for generations. Debt quietly becomes another burden carried from one year to the next. Taxes are not limited to farmland. Market merchants pay fees. Millers pay taxes. Shopkeepers pay taxes. Animal owners may owe taxes on their livestock. Even crossing certain bridges or transporting goods along busy trade routes can require payment. Wherever money changes hands, someone is usually waiting to collect a share. Of course, these taxes help support a vast empire. Roads need maintenance, fortresses require repairs, officials expect salaries, armies must be fed, clothed, and equipped. The empire stretches across enormous distances, and governing such a vast land is expensive. Yet ordinary villagers rarely think about distant military campaigns. They think about tomorrow's bread, about whether enough grain will remain until winter, about whether another poor harvest could leave the family with nothing at all. Around the evening fire, neighbors sometimes whisper about taxes, never too loudly. Complaining openly about officials is unwise. Instead, they exchange quiet stories. Someone's vineyard produced less fruit this year. Another family's ox became sick just before harvest. An elderly widow worries she cannot meet her obligations. These conversations are spoken softly, almost as quietly as the crackling fire itself. Everyone understands.
Everyone carries similar worries. Still, life goes on. Tomorrow, the fields will need tending once again. The sheep will wander across the hills. Children will laugh as they chase chickens through dusty village paths. For a little while, ordinary life feels almost peaceful. But somewhere beyond the village, another tax collector is already beginning his journey. And before long, there will once again be a knock at someone's wooden door. By now, you have learned to live with hard work and heavy taxes. But there is another force that quietly shapes every day of your life: the law. In the Ottoman Empire, The law is everywhere, even when you cannot see it. It decides who owns a field, who must repay a debt, who inherits a family's home, who is punished for stealing, and who has the right to speak in court. For most ordinary people, the law is not something distant. It can appear at any moment, often when neighbors disagree, or when a simple misunderstanding grows into something much larger. Imagine that one of your goats wanders into your neighbor's wheat field. By sunset, the argument has become serious. The damaged crops have value. Someone must be held responsible. Rather than fighting, both families travel to the nearest town, where the local judge waits. This judge, known as the Qadi, is one of the most respected officials in the region. His courtroom is not a grand marble hall filled with rows of benches. Instead, it is usually a modest room where people quietly gather, hoping for a fair decision. Farmers, merchants, widows, craftsmen, travelers, or save enough to satisfy the collector. Some borrow from wealthier neighbors, others sell a goat. Some even sell family heirlooms that have been passed down for generations. Debt quietly becomes another burden carried from one year to the next. Taxes are not limited to farmland. Market merchants pay fees, millers pay taxes, shopkeepers pay taxes, animal owners may owe taxes on their livestock. Even crossing certain bridges or transporting goods along busy trade routes can require payment. Wherever money changes hands, someone is usually waiting to collect a share. Of course, these taxes help support a vast empire. Roads need maintenance, fortresses require repairs, officials expect salaries, armies must be fed, clothed, and equipped. The empire stretches across enormous distances, and governing such a vast land is expensive. Yet ordinary villagers rarely think about distant military campaigns. They think about tomorrow's bread, about whether enough grain will remain until winter, about whether another poor harvest could leave the family with nothing at all. Around the evening fire, neighbors sometimes whisper about taxes, never too loudly. Complaining openly about officials is unwise. Instead, they exchange quiet stories. Someone's vineyard produced less fruit this year. Another family's ox became sick just before harvest. An elderly widow worries she cannot meet her obligations. These conversations are spoken softly, almost as quietly as the crackling fire itself. Everyone understands. Almost anyone may appear before him. One by one, each tells their story. Witnesses speak. Documents are carefully examined. Sometimes agreements written years earlier are brought forward as evidence. Patience is expected. Interrupting the judge is not. The Qadi listens carefully before giving his decision. Sometimes both sides leave satisfied. Sometimes one walks away disappointed. But his judgment carries authority. Ignoring it can bring even greater trouble. Not every disagreement concerns animals or farmland. A merchant may accuse another trader of breaking a contract. A customer may claim that cloth was measured unfairly. Two brothers may argue over the inheritance left by their father. Even a missing chicken can become the subject of legal debate. These cases may sound small to us today, yet for families living modest lives, every coin, every animal, and every piece of land matters deeply. Losing even one goat could make the coming winter much harder. Serious crimes receive much harsher attention. Theft, violence, armed robbery. These offenses threaten not only individuals, but also the peace of the community.
Punishments vary depending on the crime, the evidence, and the circumstances. Some people receive fines, others may face imprisonment. Public order is considered essential in such a vast empire. Travelers, merchants, and farmers all depend on safe roads and peaceful markets. Without law, trade would slow, villages would become dangerous, trust between neighbors would disappear. Even so, justice is not always perfect. Powerful people sometimes possess greater influence than poor villagers.
A wealthy merchant can often afford better legal representation. An important official may have friends in high places. Ordinary farmers know this. They understand that fairness and reality do not always walk together. Still, most people hope that the court will settle disputes before they become violent. It is usually better to spend a day before the judge than years carrying hatred toward a neighbor. As afternoon fades into evening, the courthouse slowly empties. The Qadi closes another day's records. Villagers begin their long walk home. Some feel relieved, others worry about the consequences of today's decision. Life continues. Tomorrow there will be more fields to harvest, more bread to bake, more children to teach. And somewhere else in the empire, another courtroom door will quietly open, welcoming another ordinary disagreement into the long pages of Ottoman history. For millions of people, the law is not simply a book of rules. It is another part of everyday life, almost as familiar as sunrise, as unavoidable as taxes, and as constant as the changing seasons. Once every week, long before the morning sun begins to warm the streets, the village starts to empty. Farmers load wooden carts with sacks of grain. Women carefully wrap fresh bread in clean cloth. Shepherds gather sheep and goats, hoping to find a fair price. Children hurry behind their parents, excited by the rare chance to visit the bustling market. Today is market day. For many families, it is the busiest day of the week. The marketplace is where food is bought, goods are exchanged, news is shared, and fortunes can quietly rise or disappear. As you approach the town, the peaceful sounds of the countryside slowly fade away. Instead, you hear dozens of voices speaking all at once. Merchants call out to passing customers, donkeys bray impatiently, blacksmiths strike glowing metal with heavy hammers, wooden wheels creak beneath overloaded carts. The air itself seems alive. Strange and familiar smells mix together. Fresh bread comes from one corner, roasted chestnuts from another. Nearby, spices fill the air with rich scents of cinnamon, cumin, pepper, and saffron. For a brief moment, the market feels almost magical. But beauty alone does not fill an empty stomach. Everything here has a price, and prices have a habit of changing. One week, wheat is plentiful. The next, heavy rain ruins the harvest. A distant war interrupts trade routes. Caravans arrive late. Suddenly, bread costs more than it did only a month before. For poor families, even a small increase can mean eating less. A father quietly counts his coins before approaching the baker. A mother wonders whether to buy cooking oil or save the money for winter. Every purchase requires careful thought. Nothing is bought carelessly. Bargaining is expected. A merchant rarely accepts the first offer. The customer smiles politely. The merchant shakes his head. Both know the familiar dance. A few more coins are offered. The merchant sighs dramatically. Perhaps a handful of dates is added to the deal. Finally, both sides agree. Everyone leaves believing they negotiated well. Not every trader is honest. Some quietly place heavier stones on one side of their scales. Others stretch cloth just enough to make it appear longer than it truly is. A careless buyer may return home with less than was promised. Because of this, market inspectors occasionally walk through the crowded streets. Their duty is to examine weights, measures, and prices. If they discover cheating, the punishment can be severe. The authorities understand that trust keeps the market alive.
Without honest trade, people lose confidence, and without confidence, commerce begins to fail. The marketplace is also where news travels fastest. There are no newspapers, no radios, no telephones. Instead, information moves from person to person. A merchant arriving from Damascus tells stories of a distant drought. Another traveler from Cairo speaks of rising prices. Someone whispers that soldiers have been seen marching toward the frontier. Another claims the Sultan has appointed a new governor. No one knows which stories are true, yet everyone listens. Even children pause their games to hear tales from lands they may never see.
For many villagers, these conversations are their only glimpse of the wider world. As the afternoon sun begins to sink lower in the sky, the market slowly changes. Many carts stand half empty. The freshest bread has already been sold. Animals that found no buyer are gently led back toward home. Shopkeepers count their earnings. Some smile with satisfaction. Others quietly realize they earned almost nothing today. You gather your purchases carefully. A sack of flour, a small piece of cheese, perhaps a little salt if your coins were enough. It is not much, but it must last until the next market day. The journey home feels quieter. The excitement has faded. Your cart is lighter than when you arrived, yet your purse is lighter still. The road stretches peacefully across the countryside. Birds circle overhead. The evening breeze carries the scent of distant fields. Tomorrow, life will return to its familiar rhythm. The market will disappear behind you. The fields will once again demand your attention. And somewhere beyond the horizon, merchants are already preparing for another market, another crowd, and another day in the endless cycle of life inside the Ottoman Empire.
For most people in the Ottoman Empire, life revolves around fields, workshops, and marketplaces. But not every young man is allowed to spend his entire life at home. Sometimes the empire calls, and when it does, refusing is rarely an option. One quiet morning, a rider arrives in your village carrying official orders. The news spreads quickly. Men stop working in the fields. Shopkeepers step outside. Children sense that something unusual is happening. Some young men are needed. The empire is preparing for another campaign. Perhaps the fighting will take place hundreds of miles away. Perhaps it will last only a few months. Or perhaps no one will return before the next harvest. No one knows. Families gather in silence. A mother carefully packs bread, dried fruit, and cheese into a small cloth bundle. A father offers practical advice, though his voice is heavier than usual. Younger brothers watch with wide eyes, wondering if their own turn will come one day. No one speaks much about fear, yet everyone feels it. Leaving home is difficult enough. Leaving without knowing when or if you will return is something else entirely. The journey begins on dusty roads that seem to stretch forever. Hundreds of men walk together. Some are experienced soldiers. Others have never traveled beyond the neighboring village. Blisters soon cover tired feet. The summer sun beats down without mercy. Heavy packs grow heavier with every passing mile. At night, the men sleep beneath the open sky. Some lie awake, staring at the stars. They think about home. About warm bread fresh from the oven. About the voices of their families. About the fields that will soon need harvesting without them. Days later, they finally reach a military camp. Life here is unlike anything they have known. Everything follows strict rules. The day begins before sunrise. Weapons must be cleaned. Armor must be inspected.
Commands must be obeyed immediately. Discipline is not optional. Training is exhausting. Hours are spent learning to march in formation, to carry heavy equipment, to handle swords, spears, bows, or later firearms. Mistakes are corrected quickly, sometimes harshly. An army cannot afford hesitation when battle begins. Food is simple: bread, soup, beans, occasionally a little meat, enough to keep the soldiers marching, but rarely enough to satisfy hungry stomachs after a day of hard training. Water is precious, so is rest. Friendships begin to grow among the soldiers. Men from distant villages, different languages, and various parts of the empire learn to rely on one another. Around evening campfires, they exchange stories. One speaks of snowy mountains. Another remembers the warm shores of the Mediterranean. Someone else describes the crowded streets of Constantinople, larger than any town most of them have ever imagined.
These conversations make the empire seem both enormous and strangely connected. Not every soldier joined by choice. Some see military service as an honor. Others see it simply as another duty they must fulfill. Either way, the risks are real. Illness spreads easily through crowded camps. Long marches wear down even the strongest men. And somewhere ahead lies the uncertainty of battle. Even before a single sword is drawn, military life is already testing every ounce of strength, patience, and courage. As another evening settles over the camp, the fires slowly burn lower. The sounds of conversation fade. Only the distant footsteps of guards remain. You wrap yourself in a rough blanket and look toward the dark horizon. Somewhere beyond those hills, your family is finishing another ordinary day. They may be wondering whether you have eaten, whether you are safe, whether you are thinking of home. The answer is simple. You are, every single day. And although the Ottoman army is one of the most powerful military forces in the world, its strength is built upon thousands of ordinary men who quietly carry homesickness alongside their weapons. Tomorrow, the march will begin again. The road will grow longer. The burden will grow heavier, and the empire will continue asking for more. For those who never become soldiers, life follows a different path. It is quieter, slower, yet no less demanding. In fact, for most people living in the Ottoman Empire, the farm is both their workplace and their entire world. Each morning begins almost exactly like the one before. Before the sky begins to brighten, the first sounds come from the animals. A rooster announces the coming day. Sheep shuffle inside their pen. A cow lets out a slow, patient call, waiting to be milked. The family is already awake. There is little time to linger. The work cannot wait. If spring has arrived, seeds must be planted before the soil becomes too dry. If summer has come, weeds must be removed before they steal the crops. If autumn fills the fields with golden grain, every hand is needed for the harvest. And during winter, fences are repaired, tools are sharpened, and firewood is gathered for the cold months ahead. The seasons decide everything. No calendar hanging on a wall is needed. The land itself tells you what must be done. The tools are simple: a wooden plough, an iron hoe, a hand sickle for cutting grain. Many of these tools have been used by the same family for years, sometimes even generations. If one breaks, replacing it is expensive. So every handle is repaired.
Every blade is carefully sharpened. Nothing useful is thrown away. An ox slowly pulls the plough through the earth. Its steady strength makes the work possible. Without strong animals, preparing the fields would take far longer. Because of this, livestock are more than possessions. They are partners in survival. Children begin working at an early age. A small boy may spend hours chasing birds away from fresh seeds. A young girl may help carry water from the village well or collect eggs before breakfast.
No one thinks of these jobs as unusual. Helping the family is simply part of growing up. School, if available at all, often comes second to the needs of the farm. By midday, the summer sun grows fierce. Sweat runs down tired faces. Hands become rough from gripping wooden handles. Dust clings to clothes and skin. Still, the work continues. Stopping too early could mean a smaller harvest. A smaller harvest could mean less food. And less food could mean a difficult winter. When it is finally time to rest, the meal is modest. Fresh bread, a bowl of lentil soup, perhaps onions, olives, or yogurt. On fortunate days, there may be a little roasted lamb or chicken, though meat is usually reserved for special occasions. No one eats in great haste. The meal is short but appreciated. It provides just enough strength to continue. In the afternoon, neighbors often help one another. If one family finishes harvesting before another, they may lend a hand. When a roof needs repairing, several men work together. When a wedding is celebrated, the whole village joins. Life is difficult, but it is rarely lived alone. The community becomes another form of wealth. As evening approaches, the pace finally slows. Animals are brought safely back into their pens. Tools are cleaned and stored. Smoke rises gently from stone chimneys as families prepare the evening meal. Children laugh while chasing one another through narrow dirt paths. Older villagers sit outside their homes, quietly talking about the weather, the harvest, or the latest news brought from the market. For a little while, the burdens of the day seem lighter. The setting sun paints the fields in warm shades of gold and orange. It is a beautiful sight.
One that generations before you have watched, and one that generations after you will watch as well. Yet beneath this peaceful evening lies a quiet truth. Tomorrow will be exactly the same. The animals will need feeding. The fields will demand attention. The seasons will continue their endless cycle. There are no shortcuts, no machines, no weekends. Only steady work, patient hands, and the hope that this year's harvest will be just enough to carry your family safely into the next. As darkness gently settles over the village, you close the wooden door of your modest home. The fire burns softly. The voices of your family grow quieter. Outside, the stars slowly appear above the vast Ottoman sky. For a few precious hours, the world feels calm, until another dawn calls everyone back to work once again. While many history books tell stories of sultans, generals, and great battles, they often leave out the people who quietly held families together, the women. Without them, village life would simply stop. Long before the first rays of sunlight reach the rooftops, many women are already awake. The fire must be lit. Fresh water must be carried from the village well. Flour is mixed with water, and dough is kneaded by hand. Soon, the smell of baking bread begins to fill the small house. It is a familiar scent, one that marks the beginning of another ordinary day.
Breakfast is simple, but preparing even a simple meal takes time. There are no electric ovens, no running water, no machines to make the work easier. Everything depends on patience and skilled hands. After the morning meal, the day's responsibilities continue. Clothes must be washed. This often means walking to a nearby stream or fountain. Heavy baskets of laundry are carried across dusty paths. The washing itself takes hours. Soap is precious. Clean water must be used carefully. Only after everything has dried beneath the sun can the clothes be folded and brought home. Inside the house, there is always something waiting to be done. Wool must be spun into thread. Thread becomes cloth. Cloth is carefully sewn into shirts, blankets, or warm winter garments. Every stitch saves money. Buying new clothing is expensive, so families repair old garments again and again. A torn sleeve is patched. A worn blanket is stitched once more. Nothing useful is wasted. Children require constant attention. A crying baby must be comforted. An older child may need help learning household tasks. Another may have fallen while chasing chickens through the yard.
The work never truly ends. Yet there are moments of quiet happiness. Neighbors often visit one another during the afternoon. While their hands remain busy spinning wool or preparing vegetables, conversations flow gently. They share recipes. They exchange news from the marketplace. They celebrate births. They comfort one another after difficult losses. These friendships help lighten the burdens of daily life. On market days, some women travel into town to sell butter, eggs, woven cloth, or fresh vegetables. The money earned is valuable. Every extra coin helps buy salt, oil, candles, or medicine. Bargaining requires confidence. Experienced sellers know the true value of their goods and are not easily persuaded to accept less. Family celebrations bring rare opportunities to rest from ordinary routines. A wedding fills the village with music and laughter. Special dishes are prepared. Fresh bread is baked in greater quantities. Children play until long after sunset. For a brief time, worries about taxes, harvests, and difficult work seem far away. But celebrations eventually end. Morning always returns. So do the endless responsibilities. As the years pass, the work changes but never becomes lighter. Young women care for small children. Older women begin helping with grandchildren. Grandmothers become the keepers of family stories. They remember old harvests, harsh winters, and joyful weddings that younger generations know only through memory.
Their wisdom becomes as valuable as any possession. As evening falls, the family gathers once more around the fire. The final meal of the day is shared. The children slowly grow sleepy. The youngest are tucked beneath warm blankets. Outside, the village grows quiet. Only the distant barking of a dog or the soft ringing of sheep bells breaks the silence. Tomorrow's bread has already been prepared. The fire is carefully covered so a few glowing embers remain until morning. Before resting, one last look is given around the house. Everything is ready for another day. It may seem like a small life, a simple life, but it is built upon countless unseen acts of care, patience, and determination. The great cities of the Ottoman Empire, its armies, and its marketplaces all depend upon ordinary families. And those families depend every single day on the quiet strength of the women who keep them together. As the last candle flickers softly in the darkness,
Another peaceful night settles over the village. And somewhere beyond the hills, a new dawn is already waiting.
No matter how difficult life becomes, there is one place where many people find a moment of peace: the neighborhood mosque. Its tall minaret rises above the rooftops, visible from fields, gardens, and winding village paths. Several times each day, the familiar call to prayer gently echoes through the air. For a moment, the sounds of daily labor begin to fade. The blacksmith lowers his hammer. The merchant steps away from his stall. The farmer pauses his work beneath the warm sun. Life slows, if only for a little while. For many people, faith is more than a tradition. It offers comfort during poor harvests, hope during times of war, patience during illness, and gratitude during seasons of abundance. The mosque is more than a place of worship. It is also a place where neighbors meet. News is shared after prayers. Travelers tell stories of distant cities. Children laugh together in the courtyard, while elders quietly exchange advice about farming, trade, or family matters. In many communities, the imam is one of the most respected people in the village. He leads prayers, offers guidance, settles small disagreements, and reminds everyone that kindness and honesty matter just as much as hard work. His words are often simple, but they stay with people long after they return home. Throughout the year, ordinary life follows the rhythm of both the seasons and the religious calendar.
When the holy month of Ramadan arrives, daily routines change. Before sunrise, families wake while the village is still wrapped in darkness. A simple meal is shared: fresh bread, cheese, olives, perhaps a bowl of warm soup. Then, as daylight begins, the fast starts. The hours seem longer than usual. Working in the fields without food or water requires patience and determination. The afternoon sun feels hotter. The baskets seem heavier. The road home feels longer. Yet many continue their work without complaint. As sunset approaches, excitement quietly grows. Children watch the horizon. Mothers prepare the evening meal. The smell of warm bread and slow-cooked stew fills the house once again. When the fast is finally broken, even the simplest meal feels like a great feast. A sip of cool water, a piece of bread, a handful of dates if they are available. Small blessings suddenly feel much larger. Then comes Eid. The village awakens with a different feeling. People wear their cleanest clothes. Children smile with excitement. Neighbors greet one another warmly. Special meals are prepared even by families who cannot often afford such treats. Sweet pastries appear on wooden tables. Guests move from house to house. Laughter fills the narrow streets. For one joyful day, worries about taxes, debts, and endless labor seem to disappear. Even the poorest families try to share what little they have. Generosity becomes a source of pride.
Beyond Ramadan and Eid, other occasions also bring the community together. A wedding, the birth of a child, the safe return of a traveler. These moments remind everyone that life is not only about hardship, it is also about celebration, gratitude, and belonging. As evening falls after another festival, lanterns glow softly outside a few homes. The marketplace grows quiet. Children, exhausted from playing all day, fall asleep almost as soon as they lie down. The older villagers remain outside a little longer, looking up at the stars. They have seen many difficult years, harvests that failed, cold winters, times of peace, times of war.
Yet through every season, faith has remained a steady companion. Tomorrow, work will begin again. The fields will still need tending. The taxes will still come. The roads will still be long. But tonight, the village rests with lighter hearts. For a few peaceful hours, the burdens of the Ottoman Empire seem far away, carried away by the cool evening breeze beneath a sky filled with countless stars.
After the laughter of the festival has faded and the guests have returned to their own homes, ordinary life quietly begins again. The first thing you notice is that most homes in the Ottoman Empire are not large. They are built for necessity, not luxury. In a small farming village, a house is often made from mud bricks, rough stone, or timber, depending on what materials are available nearby. The walls are thick, not because people wish to impress their neighbors, but because thick walls help keep the rooms cool during the burning heat of summer and slightly warmer during the cold nights of winter. The roof may be covered with wooden beams and clay tiles. Some poorer families use thatch instead. Every few years, storms and heavy rain force the family to repair it once again. A leaking roof can quickly turn a peaceful home into an uncomfortable place. Inside, the house feels surprisingly simple. There are no soft sofas, no large dining tables, no glass cabinets filled with decorations. The floor is usually covered with wooden mats or handmade rugs. People often sit on cushions placed directly on the floor. Meals are shared while everyone sits together in a circle. At night, the same room that welcomed the family for dinner becomes their bedroom. Mattresses stuffed with wool, cotton, or straw are unrolled before sleep. At sunrise, they are folded away again to create space for the day's work. Every corner of the house serves more than one purpose. Storage is just as important as comfort. Large clay jars stand against the walls. Inside them are precious supplies: grain, olive oil, dried beans, sometimes dried fruit or nuts. These simple containers may hold the difference between surviving winter comfortably or facing hunger before spring arrives. The kitchen is small. Its heart is an open fireplace. Here bread is baked. Soup slowly simmers in heavy pots. Water is boiled. Smoke rises through an opening in the roof, though not all of it escapes. The smell of wood smoke lingers inside the house, becoming a familiar part of daily life. In winter, the fireplace is both a blessing and a challenge. It provides warmth, but fire is always dangerous. A single spark can destroy a wooden home in only a short time. Throughout the empire, entire neighborhoods have disappeared after accidental fires spread from one house to another. Because of this, people remain careful. Before sleeping, someone always checks the fire one final time. Outside the house stands a small stable or animal shelter. Goats, chickens, perhaps a donkey or an ox. Keeping animals close protects them from thieves and wild animals. Their sounds become part of the night silence. A quiet clucking, the gentle breathing of a cow, the soft bells hanging from a sheep's neck. For children growing up here, these sounds are as familiar as the voices of their own family. As evening settles over the village, the last candle is lit.
Its small flame provides only enough light for simple tasks. People cannot afford to waste candles or oil.
When darkness arrives, bedtime soon follows. There is little reason to stay awake. Tomorrow's work begins before sunrise. You lie down on your simple mattress. The room grows quiet. Outside, the wind brushes gently against the wooden shutters. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks once, before everything becomes still again. The house may not be grand. It may never appear in paintings or history books. But within these modest walls, generations are born. Children learn to walk. Families share meals. Stories pass from grandparents to grandchildren. And despite all the hardships of life in the Ottoman Empire, this humble home remains the place where people feel safest. As sleep slowly arrives, you realize that comfort does not always come from luxury. Sometimes it comes simply from having a roof overhead, warm bread on the table, and the quiet voices of loved ones nearby.
Each morning begins with the same quiet question. What will we eat today? For many ordinary families in the Ottoman Empire, the answer depends not on choice, but on circumstance. There are no overflowing markets filled with foods from every corner of the world. There are no refrigerated pantries, no canned supplies waiting on a shelf. Every meal depends on the last harvest, the family's small garden, and whatever can be traded or preserved. Bread is the center of almost every table, fresh if the flour is plentiful, hard and dry if it has been stored for several days. No crumb is wasted. Even stale bread is softened in soup or soaked in water before being eaten. Throwing food away would seem almost unthinkable. Alongside the bread, there is often a simple bowl of lentil soup. It is warm, filling, and inexpensive enough for most families to prepare. Sometimes onions are added, sometimes garlic. If fortune smiles, a little butter or olive oil gives the soup a richer taste. Cheese appears often as well, usually made from sheep's or goat's milk. It keeps longer than fresh milk and travels more easily to market. Olives are another familiar companion at the table, especially in regions where olive trees grow in abundance. Fresh fruit is enjoyed only when the season allows. In spring and summer, there may be figs, cherries, grapes, or apricots. Before winter arrives, much of the fruit is carefully dried. The sweet pieces are stored in cloth bags or clay jars, waiting for the colder months when fresh fruit disappears. Meat is different. Many people today imagine grand feasts filled with roasted lamb and fragrant rice. For ordinary villagers, that is far from reality. A family may keep sheep or chickens, but these animals are valuable. They provide milk, eggs, wool, or future offspring. Slaughtering one simply for dinner is a serious decision. Meat is usually saved for weddings, religious festivals, or other special occasions. On most evenings, vegetables and grains are enough. Yet even these modest meals cannot always be guaranteed. One year, heavy rains flood the fields. Another year, the rains never come at all. The earth cracks beneath the sun. Young plants wither before they can grow. The harvest shrinks. The grain stores empty far sooner than expected.
At first, people simply eat smaller portions. Then they begin saving every handful of flour. Mothers quietly divide one loaf of bread into thinner and thinner slices. Children notice, but they rarely complain. They understand more than adults sometimes realize. Soon, the market reflects the growing hardship. The price of grain rises. Merchants have less to sell. Long lines form outside bakeries before sunrise. Some families arrive only to discover that all the bread has already been sold. Those with a few extra coins may still find food. The poorest often cannot. Neighbors begin helping one another whenever possible. One household shares a sack of beans. Another offers a little olive oil. A farmer whose harvest was slightly better may quietly leave bread at the door of an elderly widow. These small acts of kindness become lifelines during difficult years. Still, not every family can be saved from hardship. Some leave their villages in search of work elsewhere. Others travel to larger towns, hoping opportunities will be easier to find. The roads fill with people carrying little more than blankets, cooking pots, and hope. For many, the journey itself becomes another struggle. When at last the rains return and the fields begin turning green again, relief spreads across the countryside.
Seeds are planted with renewed determination. Children smile more easily. The smell of fresh bread slowly returns to village homes. No one celebrates loudly. They have learned how quickly fortune can change. Instead, they simply give thanks for another chance. As evening falls, your family gathers around the fire once more. The meal is simple: bread, warm soup, a few olives, perhaps a small piece of cheese. By modern standards, it may seem humble, yet after months of uncertainty, it feels like a feast. You finish the last bite carefully, not because someone tells you to, but because you know how precious every mouthful truly is. In the Ottoman Empire, food is never just food. It is security, it is survival, and sometimes it is hope itself.
While farmers worry about the next harvest, another group of people faces a different kind of hardship: the merchants. Without them, villages would receive no spices from distant lands. Cities would run short of cloth. Blacksmiths would lack iron. Markets would slowly become empty. Yet every successful journey begins with uncertainty. Imagine waking before dawn in a busy caravanserai, a roadside inn where merchants, travelers, and their animals spend the night. The courtyard is already alive. Camels groan as heavy bundles are tied to their backs. Horses stamp impatiently on the stone ground. Donkeys wait quietly beside wooden carts filled with goods. The smell of fresh bread mixes with the scent of leather, wool, and dust. Everyone is preparing to leave. No merchant travels with empty hands. One caravan may carry silk from the east. Another transports fine wool.
Others bring spices, olive oil, dried fruit, pottery, or carefully woven carpets. Every bundle represents weeks or even months of work. Every journey carries the hope of profit. But the road offers no promises. As the caravan leaves the safety of the town, the landscape begins to change. Wide valleys stretch toward distant mountains. Narrow paths wind through rocky hills. Sometimes the road follows a peaceful river. Other times it disappears into lonely forests where few people dare to travel alone. The journey is slow. A heavily loaded camel cannot hurry. Neither can an ox pulling a wagon filled with grain. Some days the caravan travels only 15 or 20 miles before stopping to rest. Patience is as valuable as strength. Travel itself is exhausting. Summer heat beats down without mercy.
Dust covers clothes, faces, and supplies. When winter arrives, icy winds sweep across open plains. Rain turns roads into deep mud, making every step more difficult. Even the strongest animals become tired. The greatest fear, however, is not always the weather. It is the uncertainty of the road. Bandits sometimes hide among rocky hills or thick forests. They wait patiently for wealthy caravans carrying valuable cargo. Because of this danger, merchants often travel together. There is safety in numbers. Some caravans even hire armed guards. Their presence offers comfort, though not complete protection. Fortunately, much of the Ottoman Empire benefits from an impressive network of roads and caravanserais.
These roadside inns provide water, shelter, fresh food, and a secure place where travelers and animals can recover before continuing. For weary merchants, seeing the stone walls of a caravanserai at sunset feels almost as comforting as arriving home. Inside, people from many different cultures gather beneath the same roof. A trader from Egypt shares tea with a merchant from Anatolia. Someone from the Balkans tells stories about snowy winters. Another traveler speaks of bustling ports along the Mediterranean. Different languages fill the air, yet business becomes a language everyone understands. Around the evening fire, news spreads quickly. Someone mentions rising grain prices in a distant city. Another warns of flooded roads further east. A traveler quietly whispers that another war may soon interrupt trade. Every piece of information matters. A clever merchant listens carefully. Choosing the wrong road could cost weeks of travel or an entire fortune. Not every journey ends successfully. A sudden illness may strike. An animal may collapse from exhaustion. A wagon wheel can break miles away from the nearest village. Sometimes goods spoil before reaching the market. Sometimes prices fall just before the caravan arrives. Months of effort may produce only a small reward. Even so, merchants continue traveling. Because without trade, the empire itself would begin to slow. Markets would stand half empty. Cities would lose supplies. Villages would struggle to find tools they cannot make themselves. As another long day comes to an end, the caravan finally stops beneath the fading evening sky. The animals kneel to rest. Small cooking fires begin to glow across the campsite. The merchants quietly eat their simple meal. Tomorrow's journey will be just as long. The roads will remain uncertain, the weather impossible to predict. Yet, with the first light of dawn, they will shoulder their burdens once again. Because in the Ottoman Empire, the road never truly ends. It simply leads to another market, another town, another hope for a better tomorrow.
For weeks, life has followed its familiar rhythm. The fields have been planted. The market has been visited. The taxes have been paid, at least for now. Everything seems almost peaceful. Then one morning, someone does not wake with the same strength as before. It begins quietly, a slight cough, a fever, a tiredness that refuses to disappear. At first, no one is too concerned. Hard work often leaves people exhausted. A good night's sleep may be enough, but sometimes it is not. By the next evening, the fever has grown worse. The patient struggles to leave the bed. Even a simple bowl of soup seems difficult to finish. The family begins to worry. In the Ottoman Empire, becoming seriously ill is frightening, not only because of the sickness itself, but because there are few ways to fight it. There are no antibiotics, no modern hospitals filled with advanced equipment, no laboratories to discover the exact cause of an illness.
People depend on experience, observation, and hope. If the village is fortunate, a physician may live nearby. If not, someone must travel to the nearest town. The journey alone may take several hours, sometimes an entire day. When the physician finally arrives, the examination is careful. He asks questions. How long has the fever lasted? Is there pain? Has the patient been eating? He studies the face, feels the pulse, looks closely at the eyes and tongue. These simple observations are among the few tools available. Many physicians have spent years studying medicine. Some have read ancient medical texts written centuries earlier. Others have learned from experienced teachers through careful practice. They understand far more than many people imagine. Yet even the wisest doctor cannot cure every disease. Treatment often begins with herbs: mint for an upset stomach, chamomile to encourage restful sleep, sage for certain illnesses. Honey is used to soothe sore throats and help protect wounds. Olive oil serves not only as food, but also as part of various remedies. Some medicines help.
Others simply offer comfort while the body heals on its own. Cleanliness is considered important. Public bathhouses, known as hammams, are found throughout much of the empire. People visit them not only to wash, but also to relax and socialize. Warm steam fills the stone rooms. Water flows steadily from carved fountains. Many believe regular bathing helps maintain good health. Even so, disease continues to spread. When sickness reaches an entire village, fear grows quickly. One child develops a fever, then another. Soon several homes keep their doors closed. The marketplace becomes quieter than usual. Parents keep their children close. Visitors stop traveling from house to house. No one knows exactly how far the illness will spread. Rumors travel faster than certainty. Some say it came with a passing caravan. Others believe sailors carried it into the nearest port. Still others quietly wonder if it is simply part of life's mysteries. Whatever the cause, the result is the same. Families wait. They pray. They hope. Some recover within days.
Others remain weak for weeks. Sadly, not everyone survives. For ordinary people, death is a familiar visitor. Life expectancy is far shorter than it is today. Many children never reach adulthood. Many parents lose sons or daughters long before they expect to. These losses become part of village memory, quietly remembered, rarely forgotten. Yet life has an extraordinary way of continuing. A child who recovers from illness is soon running through the fields once again. The marketplace slowly grows busy. The blacksmith's hammer rings across the village. Bread bakes in warm ovens. The sounds of ordinary life gradually return. People cannot remain afraid forever. There is simply too much work waiting to be done. As the evening sun disappears behind the distant hills, you sit outside your home, breathing the cool air. You feel grateful for your health, because in the Ottoman Empire, good health is never taken for granted. It is one of life's greatest blessings, one that can quietly disappear without warning. And so, before another long day begins, families offer a silent hope that tomorrow, everyone they love will wake strong enough to greet the sunrise once more. As the last light fades behind the hills, another kind of caution begins. During the day, the roads are filled with farmers, merchants, travelers, and shepherds. At night, they become something entirely different. The darkness hides many things: a fallen tree across the road, a wandering wolf, or a thief waiting patiently for an unwary traveler. For this reason, most ordinary people avoid traveling after sunset whenever they can. It is simply not worth the risk. If your journey cannot be finished before dark, you look for a village, a caravanserai, or any place where a fire is burning and friendly faces can be found. Sleeping outdoors alone is a choice few willingly make. Even in peaceful times, crime exists. A hungry man may steal a loaf of bread. A desperate farmer might secretly take a neighbor's sheep. A dishonest merchant may hide a few extra coins instead of paying what he owes. Most crimes are small, but to the families who suffer them, they feel enormous. Losing a single goat may mean losing milk for the children. Losing an ox could make planting impossible the following spring. In a world where nearly every possession is earned through months of labor, theft carries a heavy cost. Villages often protect themselves. As night falls, the large wooden gate at the entrance may be closed. Dogs roam the narrow streets. Their barking quickly alerts everyone if a stranger approaches. Some villages appoint trusted men to keep watch during the darkest hours. Wrapped in thick cloaks against the cold night air, they slowly walk the quiet paths with lanterns in hand. Every unusual sound catches their attention. The creaking of a gate, footsteps where no one should be walking, the nervous movement of frightened animals. Most nights pass without trouble, but the watchmen never know which night may be different. Cities are safer in some ways, yet they bring their own dangers. Crowded neighborhoods make it easier for pickpockets to disappear into busy streets. Markets attract honest merchants and unhonest ones. A crowded festival gives thieves many opportunities to slip unnoticed through the crowd. Experienced travelers keep one hand close to their money pouch at all times. Trust is valuable. Blind trust can be expensive. Merchants transporting valuable goods remain especially cautious. A caravan carrying silk, silver, or spices may be worth more than an entire village. Such wealth attracts unwanted attention. Armed guards walk alongside the animals. Scouts sometimes ride ahead to examine the road. Whenever possible, caravans choose well-traveled routes instead of lonely mountain paths. Safety often depends upon careful planning. Inside the family home, evenings remain peaceful. The heavy wooden door is locked before bedtime. Animals are gathered safely into their shelters. The final candle burns low. Parents quietly check that every child is asleep. Only then do they allow themselves to rest. Even so, strange sounds outside can quickly awaken the household. A branch falling from a tree, the wind pushing against wooden shutters, a barking dog somewhere beyond the fields. For a brief moment, everyone listens. Then silence returns. Most fears prove harmless. Morning usually arrives without incident. As the first sunlight reaches the rooftops, doors open once more. Children run outside. Neighbors greet one another. The blacksmith's hammer begins its familiar rhythm. Another ordinary day has begun. People rarely speak about the quiet worries they carried through the night. They simply continue with their work. Because life in the Ottoman Empire teaches an important lesson. Perfect safety does not exist. Yet neither does constant danger. Most days are peaceful. Most neighbors are honest. Most journeys end safely. Still, every traveler, every merchant, and every family understands one simple truth. When darkness falls, caution becomes as valuable as bread, as necessary as shelter, and as comforting as the first light of dawn.
As another peaceful morning begins, the village fills with familiar sounds once again. The rooster crows. The bakery fire is lit. The blacksmith starts his work. Children step outside their homes, but not all of them begin the day in the same way. A few walk towards a small neighborhood school. Most walk towards the fields. In the Ottoman Empire, childhood is often much shorter than it is today. From an early age, boys and girls are expected to help their families. A 6-year-old may gather firewood. An 8-year-old may carry water from the village well. By the age of 10 or 12, many children are already trusted with important responsibilities. There is little time for endless games. Life itself becomes their teacher. For those fortunate enough to receive an education, lessons usually begin at a small local school connected to the neighborhood mosque. The classroom is simple: wooden floors, plain walls, low cushions for sitting. There are no colorful posters or rows of desks, only a teacher, a few books, and eager young minds. Many children begin by learning to read passages from the Quran. Reading is considered an important skill, not only for faith, but also for understanding the written word. Those who continue their education may also study writing, arithmetic, grammar, and basic history. The lessons require patience. Paper is expensive. Books are precious. Some students practice writing on wooden tablets before ever touching fine paper. Every page is treated with great care. Mistakes cannot simply be erased. Teachers expect discipline. Children sit quietly. They listen carefully. Respect for the teacher is considered just as important as learning the lesson itself. Questions are welcomed, but interruptions are not. Outside the classroom, education continues in another form. A boy whose father is a blacksmith learns how to shape hot iron. One whose family farms the land learns when to plant wheat and how to recognize healthy soil. A merchant teaches his son how to judge the quality of cloth and calculate fair prices. A skilled carpenter patiently shows an apprentice how to measure wood with careful hands. Knowledge passes from one generation to the next, often without a single written word. Girls are also taught valuable skills from an early age. Many learn cooking, weaving, sewing, spinning wool, and caring for younger children. Older women patiently pass these skills to daughters and granddaughters. These lessons prepare them for the responsibilities that await in adult life. Every family hopes its children will become hardworking, honest, and respected members of the community. Not everyone has the opportunity to study for many years. Poor families often need every pair of hands. During harvest season, even children who attend school may stay home to help gather crops. Food comes before education. Survival comes before comfort. No one sees this as unusual. It is simply the reality of life. Occasionally, a particularly gifted student continues studying in one of the empire's larger towns or cities. There, advanced schools offer lessons in law, mathematics, astronomy, literature, and theology. Such opportunities are rare.
Most village children will never travel so far. Their future already lies before them. The farm, the workshop, the marketplace, the family business. As the afternoon sun slowly sinks towards the horizon, the school grows quiet. The children return home. Some carry a small lesson to remember. Others carry bundles of firewood. Many carry both. The evening meal is shared together. Parents ask what the children learned today. Sometimes the answer is a new word. Sometimes it is how to milk a goat more carefully or repair a broken fence. Both kinds of knowledge are equally valuable. For in the Ottoman Empire, growing up is not measured by birthdays alone. It is measured by responsibility, by patience, by learning the skills needed to help a family survive another year. And as darkness gently settles over the village once again, another generation quietly prepares to take its place in the long, unbroken story of ordinary life.
Until now, most of our journey has taken place in quiet villages, where the rhythm of life is guided by the rising and setting of the sun. But not everyone spends their life among fields and farms. Some leave home behind, some are born elsewhere, and some arrive in the great cities of the Ottoman Empire with little more than a small bundle of clothes and a hope of finding work. As you approach one of these cities, the first thing you notice is its size. Rows of stone houses stretch farther than the eye can see. Tall minarets rise above the rooftops. Domes glisten in the morning sunlight. The streets are alive long before dawn. Thousands of people begin another busy day. The air is filled with countless sounds. Merchants opening their shops, donkeys pulling heavily loaded carts, blacksmiths striking iron, carpenters sawing timber, street vendors calling out to customers. Unlike the peaceful countryside, silence is a rare visitor here. For many newcomers, the city feels overwhelming. The crowds move quickly. The streets twist and turn like a maze. Every neighborhood seems to have its own character. Some are filled with skilled craftsmen, others with spice merchants, bakers, or textile traders. The smell changes from one street to the next. Fresh bread, hot iron, leather, wood shavings, sweet pastries, strong coffee. The city never seems to stand still. Finding work is not always easy.
Many young men begin as apprentices. They earn little or no money at first. Instead, they receive food, a place to sleep, and the chance to learn a trade. Their days are long. Before sunrise, they sweep the workshop floor. They prepare tools. They carry heavy supplies. Only after proving themselves do they slowly begin learning the craft. A blacksmith's apprentice spends years mastering the heat of the forge. A carpenter learns how every piece of wood behaves differently. A tailor practices thousands of careful stitches before making an entire garment alone. Patience is expected. Skill cannot be rushed. Guilds play an important role in city life. These organizations bring together people who share the same profession. Bakers help bakers, carpenters support carpenters, silversmiths work alongside other silversmiths. The guilds help maintain quality, settle disagreements, train apprentices, and protect the reputation of their trade. Becoming a respected master often takes decades. Success is earned slowly. Life in the city also brings higher expenses. Food costs more than it does in many villages. Rent must be paid. Firewood is expensive during the winter. Competition between businesses is constant. One poor month may leave a family struggling to survive. Even so, many continue chasing the opportunities that city life offers. Some dream of opening their own shop. Others hope to earn enough money to send home to their parents. A few become successful merchants whose goods travel across the empire. Most, however, live ordinary lives. They work hard, they save carefully. They hope tomorrow will be slightly better than today. When evening finally arrives, the crowded streets begin to quiet. Shops close one after another. Workshop doors are locked. The last customers disappear into the fading light. Workers slowly make their way home through narrow stone streets. Some carry fresh bread. Others carry bundles of firewood. Many carry only tired bodies after another exhausting day. Inside modest homes, simple meals are shared. Soup simmers over the fire. Children tell stories about their day. Parents quietly count the few coins they earned. Will it be enough? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Yet morning always returns. The workshops will open once again. The markets will fill with customers. The blacksmith's hammer will ring through the streets. And thousands of ordinary workers will quietly continue building one of the greatest empires in history, not with swords or crowns, but with their hands. They are rarely remembered by name. No statues are raised in their honor. No history books tell their stories. Yet without them, the cities could never have flourished. Their labor shapes every street, every market, and every home. And as night settles gently over the city, another long day comes to an end, leaving tomorrow to begin the same familiar journey once again.
For all the challenges of taxes, hard work, illness, and long journeys, there was one enemy that no one could bargain with: nature. A tax collector could be reasoned with. A merchant might lower his price. A judge could settle an argument. But the wind, the rain, and the earth listened to no one. One spring morning begins like countless others. The sky is clear. Birds sing from the trees. Farmers walk into their fields carrying wooden tools over their shoulders. Nothing feels unusual. Then, without warning, the ground begins to move. At first, it is only a gentle trembling. People stop walking. Animals become restless. The chickens scatter in every direction. Then the shaking grows stronger. Stone walls crack. Clay pots fall from wooden shelves. Roofs groan under the strain. Families rush outside, afraid that the buildings around them may collapse. For those who have never experienced an earthquake, the feeling is almost impossible to describe. The very ground beneath your feet, something you have trusted your entire life, suddenly becomes uncertain. When the shaking finally stops, silence follows. Then comes the sounds of frightened voices, neighbors calling to one another, children crying, dogs barking. People slowly begin counting their blessings. Some homes remain standing, others are badly damaged. A few lie in ruins. Entire families spend the following nights sleeping beneath the open sky, afraid another earthquake may come before the walls can be repaired. Yet earthquakes are only one danger. Fire is another. Most homes are built with wooden beams. Cooking is done over open flames. Candles provide light after sunset. All it takes is a single spark. Perhaps a forgotten ember falls onto a dry floor. Perhaps a strong wind carries flames from one rooftop to another.
Within minutes, smoke fills the narrow streets. The alarm spreads quickly. Buckets of water are passed from hand to hand. Men climb onto roofs. Women carry children to safety. Everyone works together. But fire moves faster than people. Sometimes an entire neighborhood disappears before sunrise. Afterward, only blackened stones and ashes remain. Families search through the ruins, hoping to recover anything that survived. A cooking pot, a family rug, a wooden chest.
anything that can help them begin again. Floods bring their own hardships. A peaceful river may become a raging torrent after days of heavy rain. Bridges disappear beneath rushing water. Fields are swallowed by mud. Freshly planted crops are destroyed in a single afternoon. The harvest that promised so much simply vanishes. In other years, the opposite happens. The rain never comes. Week after week, the sky remains cloudless. The earth grows dry and hard. Small cracks spread across the fields. The wheat turns yellow long before harvest. Animals search desperately for fresh grass. Every morning, farmers look toward the empty sky, hoping to see dark clouds gathering. Sometimes they appear. Sometimes they do not. Nature decides, not people. Even harsh winters create unexpected problems.
Snow blocks mountain roads. Trade slows almost to a stop. Villages become isolated for weeks. Firewood grows scarce. Families stay close together around the fireplace, using every log as carefully as possible. Leaving the warmth of home becomes a difficult choice. Yet, despite all these hardships, people rarely give up. The morning after a fire, they begin clearing the ashes. After an earthquake, broken walls are rebuilt. When floodwaters finally retreat, seeds are planted once more. Hope returns with remarkable speed, perhaps because it must. Life in the Ottoman Empire leaves little room for despair. The fields still need tending, children still need feeding, animals still need caring for. As the sun sets over another long day, the village slowly grows quiet again. A few damaged homes are covered with temporary roofs. Neighbors share food with those who have lost everything. The stars appear overhead, just as they always have. Looking up at the peaceful night sky, it is difficult to imagine how much power nature truly holds. Tomorrow may bring sunshine, or another storm. No one can know. All anyone can do is wake with the dawn, give thanks for another day, and quietly begin again.
By now, you have walked through dusty villages, crowded marketplaces, lonely roads, and busy cities. You have met farmers, merchants, craftsmen, soldiers, ordinary families whose lives are shaped by hard work from sunrise until long after sunset. But far away from these humble homes stands another world, a world that seems almost impossible to imagine. High above the sparkling waters of the Bosphorus, magnificent palaces overlook the capital. Their elegant courtyards are carefully maintained. Marble halls shine beneath the afternoon light. Beautiful gardens bloom with colorful flowers. Fountains gently fill the air with the sound of flowing water. To an ordinary farmer, such a place might seem like a dream, or perhaps another world entirely. Inside the palace, the Sultan carries the enormous responsibility of ruling one of the largest empires on earth. Every day, messengers arrive with reports from distant provinces. Officials discuss taxes. Military commanders describe the latest campaigns. Governors request guidance. Judges send important documents. The empire stretches across thousands of miles, and every decision affects millions of lives. The work of governing is never truly finished. The palace itself is like a small city. Hundreds, even thousands of people live and work within its walls. Guards protect the gates. Cooks prepare meals. Gardeners care for the grounds. Servants clean endless rooms and corridors. Scribes spend hours copying official documents by hand.
Every person has a role. Every task keeps the great machine of government moving. The kitchens are especially remarkable. Huge copper pots hang above roaring fires. Fresh bread is baked throughout the day. Rice, vegetables, fruit, fish, and carefully prepared meats fill long tables. Skilled cooks work from dawn until late into the evening. For the inside the palace, food is rarely uncertain. For the ordinary farmer living hundreds of miles away, every harvest still determines whether the family will eat comfortably through the winter. The contrast is impossible to ignore. Fine silk garments are worn inside the palace. Gold embroidery decorates robes. Soft carpets cover polished floors. Crystal lamps reflect warm candlelight across richly painted walls. Meanwhile, in a small village, a family carefully patches the same woolen coat for the third or fourth winter. A pair of worn shoes may last many years. Every thread is precious. Every repair saves money. Yet it would be unfair to imagine that palace life is free from difficulty. The Sultan carries burdens unlike any other. Every decision may shape the future of an entire empire. A poor harvest in one province, a rebellion in another, a war along a distant frontier, a deadly disease spreading through a busy city. All eventually reach the palace in the form of reports and urgent requests. Power brings comfort, but it also brings responsibility beyond imagination. Even so, ordinary people rarely think about life behind palace walls. They are too busy living their own lives.
They worry about repairing fences before winter, about paying taxes on time, about whether enough grain remains in storage, about a sick child recovering from fever. These everyday concerns feel far more important than distant political decisions. Sometimes the Sultan issues new laws or orders meant to improve life across the empire. Sometimes they help. Sometimes their effects take months or even years to reach the smallest villages. By then, many people are simply focused on the next harvest. As evening falls over the capital, the palace windows glow with warm light. Far beyond the city, in countless villages scattered across mountains, valleys, and open plains, thousands of tiny fires burn inside humble homes. Families gather around simple meals. Children grow sleepy after another day of work and play. Grandparents quietly tell old stories beside the fire. The palace may symbolize the greatness of the Ottoman Empire, but these ordinary homes are its foundation. Without the farmers, there would be no bread. Without the craftsmen, no tools. Without the merchants, no trade. Without the soldiers, no protection. And without countless hard-working families, even the grandest palace would stand empty. History often remembers emperors and magnificent buildings, yet the true heartbeat of the empire has always belonged to the ordinary people, whose names were never written into history books. As another peaceful night settles across the land, the palace and the village fall asleep beneath the same moon. Different worlds, different lives, yet forever connected by the same empire. Nothing in history remains the same forever. Not kingdoms, not cities, not even the mightiest empires. For centuries, the Ottoman Empire had expanded across continents, connecting distant lands through trade, culture, and government. Many people believed its strength would last forever. But slowly, almost unnoticed at first, change began to arrive. The first signs were not dramatic.
There was no single day when people woke up and declared that the empire was changing. Instead, the changes appeared quietly. A merchant returned from the market with troubling news. Prices had risen again. A farmer sold the same amount of wheat as last year, yet the money he received seemed to buy less. A blacksmith found that iron had become more expensive. One small change led to another, then another. Families who had once managed comfortably now found themselves counting every coin more carefully than ever before. The value of money itself became uncertain. Coins that had once been trusted slowly lost some of their worth. People noticed that the same handful of coins no longer bought as much bread, cloth, or oil. No one liked these changes, but very few understood why they were happening. To ordinary villagers, it simply felt as though life was becoming more expensive. Wars also left their mark. Even battles fought hundreds of miles away eventually reached the countryside. Armies needed food. Horses needed grain. Weapons had to be made. Roads required repairs. All of these needs demanded money. And much of that money came from taxes. Families that were already struggling found new burdens placed upon their shoulders. Sometimes young men left to serve in the army and did not return for many months. Some never returned at all.
Fields that once echoed with laughter grew quieter. Fewer hands remained to harvest the crops. The work became even harder for those who stayed behind. Trade also became less predictable. When war interrupted important roads, merchants arrived later than expected. Some caravans never arrived. Goods became scarce. Scarcity pushed prices even higher. A simple piece of cloth, a sack of flour, a small bottle of olive oil. Everything seemed to cost more than before. People adapted the only way they knew how. Old clothes were patched again instead of replaced. Broken furniture was repaired rather than discarded. Families planted larger gardens whenever possible. Nothing useful was wasted. Even children understood the importance of saving. Grandparents often spoke of earlier times. Some remembered years when food had been cheaper. Others recalled peaceful decades when trade flourished and harvests were generous. Whether those memories were entirely accurate hardly mattered. They offered comfort, a reminder that difficult times had come before and had eventually passed. Yet change was impossible to ignore. The empire itself was becoming more complicated. Officials struggled to manage distant provinces. Messages took weeks or months to travel across such a vast land. Local governors sometimes made decisions that differed from those in the capital. For ordinary people, these political problems were difficult to understand. What they understood was much simpler. Bread cost more. Taxes felt heavier. Life demanded greater effort. Still, every morning the sun continued to rise. Farmers walked to their fields.
The years pass more quickly than anyone expects. One moment you are a child chasing chickens through the village. Then you are a young farmer learning to guide an ox through the fields. Soon you are raising children of your own, and before long your hair begins to turn gray. Your hands, once strong and smooth, now tell the story of a lifetime. Deep lines cross your palms. Small scars remain from old accidents. Your shoulders ache before the day's work has even begun. The body remembers every season it has endured, every harvest, every cold winter, every heavy load carried home from the market. Growing old in the Ottoman Empire is not like retirement in the modern world. There is no pension waiting each month, no comfortable home built especially for the elderly. Most people continue working for as long as their bodies allow. Perhaps they no longer plow the fields from sunrise until sunset. Instead, they repair tools,
Feed the chickens. Watch over the grandchildren while younger family members work. Even small tasks help the household survive. Old age does not mean becoming unimportant. Quite the opposite. The elderly often become the memory of the family. They remember which fields flood after heavy rain, which trees produce the sweetest fruit, which herbs ease a fever, which neighbor can always be trusted. These lessons cannot be found in books. They are carried in experience. On warm evenings, grandchildren gather around their grandparents. The children listen with wide eyes as stories are told. They hear about terrible winters when snow covered the roads for weeks, about harvests so plentiful that every barn overflowed with grain, about journeys to distant cities that seemed unimaginably large, and about weddings that filled the village with music until sunrise. Perhaps the stories grow a little more colorful with each passing year. No one seems to mind. The memories bring comfort. Life has never been easy. Some old people still carry quiet sadness. A son lost to war, a daughter taken by illness, a friend who never returned from a trading journey. These memories remain even after many decades, yet they rarely speak of them with bitterness. Life has taught them that joy and sorrow often travel together. Winter becomes the hardest season. Cold air settles into tired bones. Walking grows slower. Heavy work becomes nearly impossible. Families gather close around the fireplace. The youngest children sit beside the oldest grandparents. The warmth belongs to everyone.
Respect for elders is deeply rooted in many communities. Younger generations are expected to care for aging parents whenever possible. Several generations often live beneath the same roof. Grandparents are rarely left alone. They continue offering advice, telling stories, and watching children grow. It is a quiet exchange. The young provide strength. The old provide wisdom. Together, they create a family. As the years continue, you begin noticing small changes. The fields seem larger than before. The walk to the market feels longer. The bundles of firewood grow heavier each winter. But some things never change. The call to prayer still echoes across the village. The baker still rises before dawn. The shepherd still leads his flock into the hills. The stars still appear each evening above the rooftops. Life moves forward, just as it always has. One afternoon, you sit outside your home, watching your grandchildren play. They laugh while chasing one another through the same dusty paths where you once played as a child. For a moment, it feels as though time had folded in on itself. Generations come and go, yet the village remains. The seasons continue. The empire changes, but ordinary life carries on. You smile quietly, not because life was easy. It never was. You smile because despite every hardship, every tax, every poor harvest, every illness, every long winter, you endured. You built a home, raised a family, shared your bread, helped your neighbors, and left the world a little richer than you found it. As the sun slowly disappears beyond the distant hills, another peaceful evening settles over the village. The children are called inside. The fire is lit. The familiar smell of warm bread fills the air once again. You close your eyes for a moment, grateful for another ordinary day. Because in the end, it is ordinary days, not famous battles or grand palaces, that truly make up a lifetime. Our long journey through the Ottoman Empire is almost over. The fire beside us has burned low. The village has fallen quiet. Only the soft whisper of the evening wind moves through the trees. If you listen carefully, you can almost hear the distant sound of sheep bells drifting across the hills.
The marketplace is empty now. The merchants have packed away their goods. The blacksmith's forge has gone cold. The baker has finished tomorrow's dough. Even the watchman walks more slowly through the sleeping streets. Everything is finally at rest. When we first arrived, we stepped into the shoes of an ordinary person. Not a sultan. Not a famous general. Not a wealthy merchant. Just someone whose name has long been forgotten by history. Together, we watched the sun rise over quiet fields. We followed farmers through endless seasons of planting and harvesting. We stood beside anxious families as tax collectors approached their doors. We listened to judges settle disputes that could change a family's future. We wandered through crowded marketplaces filled with spices, bread, and the voices of travelers from distant lands. We marched beside weary soldiers along dusty roads. We entered humble homes where every loaf of bread was precious. We saw mothers quietly caring for their families before dawn had even broken. We watched children grow into hard-working adults long before they had truly finished being children. We sat beside physicians who could offer hope, but not always a cure. We waited through long nights, listening for sounds outside the village gate. We witnessed earthquakes, fires, floods, and droughts. We saw cities filled with opportunity and villages built upon patience. We looked toward magnificent palaces while remembering that the true strength of the empire lived far beyond their walls. And finally, we grew old alongside the ordinary people who carried the empire upon their shoulders without ever expecting to be remembered. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson history offers us.
Great empires are often remembered because of powerful rulers, but they survive because of ordinary people. The farmer who wakes before sunrise, the baker who fills the village with the smell of fresh bread, the shepherd guiding his flock across quiet hills, the blacksmith shaping iron beside a glowing fire, the mother who mends worn clothing late into the night, the grandfather whose stories preserve memories no book has ever recorded. These people rarely appear in paintings. Their names are missing from official records. Few statues are ever raised in their honor. Yet they are the heartbeat of every civilization. Life in the Ottoman Empire was rarely easy. The taxes were heavy, the work was endless, the winters were cold. Illness could arrive without warning. Wars often felt close, even when the battlefield lay far away. Still, people found reasons to smile. They celebrated weddings, shared meals, helped neighbors rebuild after disaster, welcomed newborn children with hope, and ended each day believing tomorrow was worth facing. History is often told through victories and defeats, kings and battles, borders and treaties. But perhaps the quieter stories matter just as much. The stories of ordinary mornings, simple meals, long conversations beside the fire, the sound of children laughing in dusty village streets, the comfort of returning home after a difficult day. These are the moments that fill an entire lifetime. Now the night has grown deeper. The stars shine brightly above the sleeping countryside. A gentle breeze moves through the wheat fields one final time. Somewhere, an old shepherd watches the last of his flock settle for the night. A candle is quietly extinguished inside a small village home. The final loaf of bread cools upon a wooden table.
Tomorrow, another sunrise will come. Another harvest will begin. Another child will take their first steps. Another family will gather around the evening fire. The empire itself may one day fade into history. Its borders may change. Its rulers may be remembered or forgotten. But the ordinary lives we have shared tonight will always remain part of the human story. So, as your own day comes to a peaceful close, allow the sounds of that distant village to slowly fade away. Imagine the cool night air, the quiet fields stretching beneath a sky filled with countless stars, the warm glow of a humble home in the distance, and the comforting knowledge that across every century, people have ended their days with the same simple hope that tomorrow will bring enough bread to share, enough strength to work, enough peace to rest. Thank you for spending this quiet evening exploring the forgotten lives of ordinary people in the Ottoman Empire. Wherever you are, may your own night be calm. May your thoughts grow lighter, and may sleep find you as gently as the first light of dawn once found that peaceful village so many centuries ago. Good night.